Guys, I keep going over the same facts because I'm doing a bad job of presenting the evidence here to you, so I'm going to go over this once again. Right? They are claiming that a solar flare 3 years in advance is going to strike the Earth, right? Which is going to make the sky go red and wipe the internet and paralyse the Earth. I'm going to present the evidence here in a different way for you guys because, you know, this is important. When you get an important fact, you just don't overlook it because this is key evidence here, guys, of what I'm telling you, and what I've been telling you for quite some time is very important to yourselves, your loved ones, and everybody else. Something is happening, right? And you need to pay attention to that. And I'm going to present the evidence in a way where you have to do a little bit of work here. I'm going to provide the evidence. All you have to do is use a bit of logic, okay? What they're talking about is that this event, right, I'll slowly do this. You can pause it if you need to read the paragraph, but I'm just interested in the fact that they are talking about the Carrington event, which happened in 1859, right? And they are saying that, you know, we cannot overlook it. I also want to draw your attention to the people that are taking this seriously. That is the Defence Secretary, Leon Fox, right, called an emergency meeting conference with regards to, you know, the fact that we could experience something that could wipe out, the internet, paralyse all the, all the technological infrastructure on our planet, yeah. And this is another well-known, Professor Brian Cox, and he's backing up these guys, and he's also mentioning the Carrington event, yeah, in 1859. Now, the difference is, guys, is most of you people know, right, this is supposed to be a solar max time. However, the amount of sunspots that mount up to a solar max are just not there. If we look at that graph, right, work out where 1859 is, because that is the Carrington event, yeah? And what we've got is the Maunder minimum, the Dalton minimum, and we've got 1859 where the solar flare that struck Earth happened, right? It is my guess that 1859, right, beings 1850 falls in between these two peaks, yeah, which was, I guess, the solar maximum at that point, straight in the centre of them. At 1859, the solar maximum of 1859 was well over 100 sunspots. And if we compare the amount of sunspots around that time, we can see that this was clearly not a solar minimum, because in these blue strikes alone, there is only 2 or 3 that fail to get above 100 sunspots. So 1859 is clearly not taking place in a solar minimum, like the Dalton minimum, which was at 50, and the Maunder minimum, which was at 0. The important point here is when we had the Maunder minimum, it was then nicknamed the mini ice age. So we have a direct correlation with 0 sunspots and ice ages. What NASA and everybody else are saying is that in 1859 we had a large solar flare and it struck the Earth, wiping out all infrastructure, right? But we can see that we are more likely to get a solar flare hit the Earth in a maximum, right, and a normal maximum as well, because we can see that in general, we have more than 100 sunspots in a solar maximum. So, how can they be predicting, first of all, that we are going to get a solar flare take place in 2013, they are predicting that this will happen 3 years, because there's the date that this article was released. I've showed you this umpteen times now, guys, but it is important that I keep showing you this because I want the penny to drop. You know, I want you to understand that what they're saying just does not fit the evidence that we're looking at, right? Because we are clearly not in a solar maximum, and that is when you would expect solar flares to take place, and that is when the Carrington event occurred in a solar maximum, and it was a healthy solar maximum compared to all the other solar maximums. It was not a minimum like we are in now, and I'm about to show you the facts of that. It was definitely not in the minimum. It wasn't in the Maunder minimum when there was 0 sunspots, and it definitely isn't in close to the Dalton minimum when we only had a few sunspots. The Carrington event occurred in a healthy sunspot cycle. So, what else do these guys know that is taking place? Could it be the only thing that has been changing on this earth, and that nobody has been paying any attention to whatsoever, other than the fact that a few people like myself are bringing it to your attention? And this is the only thing since 2012 I've come across that was changing. Now, a magnetic reversal will drop the magnetosphere, which is the protective layer of the Earth, and when the protective layer of the Earth comes down, we get bombarded by cosmic particles. Boeing International, the aircraft manufacturer, are starting to recall their aircraft to change their computer avionics, because they are starting to be struck by more cosmic particles, and therefore, you know, the results of that is aircraft drop 1,000 feet in the matter of minutes because of a malfunction, and the computer, you know, not being able to cope with every instrument in that cockpit coming up as a fault. This is very serious, guys. We have nuclear power stations running, you know, in most countries on this planet, and they are run by computers. You know, we don't just have this. Most of our logistics is covered by some form or other of electronics. Now, what I'm saying to you guys is they are blaming a solar flare, right, when we can see there is minimal chance of a solar flare taking place. I'm going to pause this video, I'm going to come back with that evidence for you now so you can see exactly where I'm coming from. Here's that evidence I was talking about, guys. We can see solar cycle 22, solar cycle 23, solar cycle 24. We can see the depletion in sunspots rapidly dropping off, almost to nothing here. But look, the scale, right, and if we just pan across, we can see that there is less than 50 sunspot numbers, right? And I want to say to you this, guys, NASA have been adding sunspot numbers unnecessarily to their count, and they're doing it because it would be blatant evidence if they actually showed you the figures, which would represent possibly, my workings out, very close to a Maunder minimum. And haven't I been saying that we are expecting an ice age? Well, the Maunder minimum was classed as an ice age, and look at the date. It hasn't got 2013 on it, but look what's happened to solar 24. It's dropped right off. It's at 0, if you ask me, right now, and they haven't included this in these statistics, and I've not been able to get an update for them. But the main point I want to make is look where the cosmic particles are increasing more and more. As we're seeing the opposite, as the sunspots reduce, we're seeing an increase more and more in cosmic particles. You can see them getting more. I mean, we're seeing an opposite reaction. This is like looking at the sunspots of solar 24, and then looking at the sunspots of solar 23, and then looking at the sunspots of solar 22. It's in reverse, guys. We're heading for a critical point here, and what we're being told is something which is very similar to the truth, but not quite the truth. And the reason for that is I've presented the evidence in that, well, I'll show you again, just so that you know where I'm coming from, guys. Just bear with me 1 minute. Guys, this is that report again which I've referred to many times, but it's critical evidence in what I'm trying to say to you guys. Yeah, and it's clearly saying it on the title. Sunspots may vanish by 2015. If we go down to the charts, we can see, right, we can see that the magnetic gauze is dropping off by 77 gauze per year, and that the Umbria is increasing, or the sunspots are increasing in heat by 45k each year, and you can see the direct correlation between magnetic anomaly and magnetic gauze dropping off. And I confirmed this in an experiment, guys, which I showed you. I showed you that when you hit a magnet, you lose its magnetic anomaly. And I think that also rebuilds the claim that the core of this Earth is heating up because the magnetic North Pole has begun migrating. But you can clearly see it here, guys. Everything is suggesting, right, that we will not be getting a solar flare, right, and that another thing that we're suggesting is, or actually claiming, is that there is no chance of anybody predicting a solar flare could take place 3 years in advance, because first of all we have to have a sunspot that is in a position to fire a solar flare or a CME or some other type of eruption at the Earth at the right time. Now, it just is almost impossible. It's like a blind man firing at a target. You can't predict such things, guys. What else do they know is taking place? Well, it could be quite simply the fact that they have looked at the same evidence as what I have looked at and come to the same conclusions. The magnetosphere is weakening because the pole is migrating. The last time, according to historic records, that this took place was 780,000 years ago. That was up until 12 months ago, when some scientists doing deep core samples in the Black Sea discovered that the Earth went through a magnetic reversal 41,000 years ago. And here's the kicker, guys. Lo and behold, there was an ice age present at the same time. This evidence is solid evidence. You could convict somebody of this evidence that I've presented you, and I know that I've done it in a few ways which probably hasn't clicked with you, and I'm hoping that we're starting to have those little switches flick over in your mind so that you know where I'm coming from, and I am presenting some solid facts here for you guys. I'll go out my way to do that. If you understand where I'm coming from with this video, right, and you understand the facts, right, I think you'll know that this information is worth more than a bit.